Hey, this is Bryce Harper, and welcome to the Philly Show.
Welcome to the Philly Show, brought to you by Citizens. From making a plan to reaching your goals, make sense of your money with Citizens, official bank of the Phillies. Gentlemen, we got up real early Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday, April 9th, 2025. Ruben Amaro Jr., Jim Salisbury, Todd Zalewski, because we just had to talk about last night's game, series opener in Atlanta. Phillies lose 7-5, and it was one of the weirdest, I would say one of the weirdest games ever that I've seen in Atlanta, because I've seen a lot of really weird losses in Atlanta. A lot of like five come to mind,
Oh yeah.
Phones. All sorts of crazy stuff. But the one last night pops it in my head, or it will stay in my head forever because of what happened in that second inning. Edmundo Sosa in the first inning, of course, makes this unbelievable catch over the left field wall to rob Marcell Ozuna of a home run. I was like, oh my God, in the press box. And then in the second inning, of course, a lazy fly ball, Austin Riley to left center field. Edmundo Sosa, Johan Rojas converge. Some miscommunication happens. And then the ball literally drops maybe 2 feet in front of Johan Rojas. He looks up in the air, follows the ball all the way down. The ball bounces into his glove. He's that close to the ball. Leads to a 3-run rally. Phillies lose the game. Ruben, you've coached the outfield. Tell us what went wrong on that play.
Pretty much everything. And part of it is because Sosa has not played out there, and much of it is because you didn't have enough aggressiveness out of Rojas. The ball goes up in the air in the left center field, and I think right when the ball went up, Sosa probably said something. I think he called the ball, and then
Ruben, real quick, Sosa actually was saying, and this is the one of the weirder parts.
Yeah, no, he said, you take it, yours,
right.
yours. Tuyo means yours. Okay. Now, when it first went up, I think he may have said something because Johan Rojas looked at him. Now, when they got closer and started to converge, that's when I think Sosa said, tuyo. And that means yours. An outfielder is not supposed to say that. The only time an outfielder is supposed to say anything is that I got it. That's mío, or mine. And that's in Spanish, obviously. But I got it is pretty universal. And I think, Sosa knows how to say that. But that said, Johan Rojas, I'm sure before the game started, everybody knows this is the first time Sosa's out there playing left field. So as a center fielder, you have to know that you're going to be the most aggressive player out on the field without question, especially with the big outfield like it is in Atlanta. The Truist Park, it's no joke out there in left field. So there's a lot of ground to cover. And to me, Johan Rojas has to go and challenge this baseball. He has to make the play, and he has to be really aggressive with it. And he sort of gave up. And I know that there's noise, and I know it's difficult, but this ball has to be caught. And there's so much more to unpack because of this. The walk afterwards, and then the home run. You just can't walk Jared Kelenic, 3 times, which they did yesterday. Good on him. But the reality of it is that's a player that you just got to throw strikes to. You got to make him swing the bat. He has not had a lot of success. Then he hangs a breaking ball, and they're down 3-1. It's really unfortunate the way it worked out. Sort of a comedy of errors in some sense, but not comedic for Topper and the rest of the team.
Yeah, I agree with you. Rojas needs to be more aggressive, but I also think Sosa's got good enough instincts to know that that's the center fielder's ball all the way, and he's got to peel off because this is, you play defense, it requires 100% concentration. And if you get a blip of concentration, you're going to mess something up. And I think right at the end, he spooked Rojas, and that caused Rojas to pull up. So, Sosa's got to peel off. Rojas has to take charge and go get that ball and put it in his back pocket. That I don't even care if it's your first time out there. There's certain fundamentals that you learn as a young player, and that's one of them. That's center fielder's ball. Put it in your back pocket. They cost Wheeler 3 runs. I know Wheeler didn't exactly stop the bleeding. I didn't think he had a great night. And it cost him 3 runs. Would you guys be in favor of the old, I know this has been talked about before, but like a team error so it doesn't maybe affect
That
Wheeler's?
Jim, let me just say this. You can go ahead and opine on that, Todd, before I rant.
No, I was gonna say, that was the thing I got last night. Immediate feedback was that is so unfair to Zach Wheeler.
That's what I mean.
That was ruled and earned. Those 3 runs were ruled earned runs. You know, he had that ridiculous streak going of 13 consecutive starts, 6+ innings, 2 earned runs or fewer, and because of that gaffe, that mental lapse by both of them, that streak ended and at that moment after he gave up that home run. So I'd be for it.
It is an absolute error. I don't care. I'm an outfielder.
Right.
The ball needs to be caught.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter whether the ball hit the glove or hit the glove.
It's an error.
It's one of those situations where it is an error. I mean, if a ball goes up in the air and that same sort of thing happens in the infield, that's an error. And then, the shortstop and the second baseman are calling the ball, and then someone lunges forward and it drops. That's an error. I don't care. In every single instance, it's an error. I don't care. Doesn't matter what you're playing: T-ball, little league, pee-wee, major leagues, minor leagues. That's an error, and it should be. And that's and I don't know what's going on with the scoring in Major League Baseball. It's pretty putrid as it stands, but that's an error. Period.
Yeah, error means mistake. That was a mistake.
Right.
It's unfortunate to penalize the pitcher,
Right.
in that situation. I hope they don't back off on the Sosa in left field thing, because I think this is a great learning, teaching moment, learning moment, whatever you want to call it. We talk about all the time. Failure can be a great teacher. I don't think either one of those guys is going to make this mistake again. So there might be some long-term gain here.
Well, after the game, it was interesting. Johan Rojas has typically used an interpreter over the years as he's started to get more and more comfortable using his English. Last night, he did his interview all in English. He kind of wanted to say what he wanted to say in English to the English-speaking reporters, which we appreciated, and he just basically kept repeating himself, which was understandable. I've got to take charge there. That's my responsibility. That's my fault. I've got to catch that ball. He kept saying that over and over and over. But Ruben, you mentioned the sequence after that. Jared Kelenic last night, going into last night's game, he had 4 hits all season, had not walked once. So he walks in that situation. Then of course, and then a sweeper backs up on Zach Wheeler. He gives up the home run to Sean Murphy. And talking to Wheeler after the game, he said he was mad at himself because as a pitcher, as one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball, he takes pride in those situations, those specific moments, and stopping the bleeding. And he felt he did not stop the bleeding. So that was kind of gnawing at him more than, he's not necessarily walking out of the ballpark last night going, freaking Rojas and Sosa, man, they cost me my game. He was more upset with the walk to Kelenic and then throwing a sweeper that backed up to Sean Murphy.
He wasn't sharp. I was looking at his numbers, and he was pretty much everything was down a little bit, and you could extend that right through the bullpen. Everything looked a little down in terms of some of the metrics last night, but that said, they bailed out Wheeler. The offense was very resilient. Top of the lineup, top half of the lineup did a really good job getting back that lead. And to me, that's disappointing loss. It's one of those nights where you go in the clubhouse and you guys are sitting around talking about, we didn't play our best game, but we came out of here with a win. And it didn't happen because they hurt themselves early.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. A very disappointing win. I mean, I know it's early in the season. That's a win. That should have been a W. Right. And I'm sure that they were walking out of that ballpark not happy with it. But again, they talk about it all the time. It's time to flush it, and hopefully they can bounce back. And and play better baseball. They've got a couple of big games coming up, and they just got to bounce back and do their thing. I was really impressed by the at-bats by Schwarber and Castellanos. Really terrific. We cannot get off this podcast today and not talk about that, because he handled, what Schwarber did and what Castellanos did were just extraordinary, and we can expound on that some more.
They are both driving the ball with authority. Castellanos is driving the ball to the pull side with authority. He's turning on pitches. He's recognizing pitches. He looks really good.
We'll talk about that and more right after these words.
AJ, it is time for people to get some new clubs, and to do that, they need to go to their local PXG for a fitting, right?
No doubt. I was there today. I've been there before. Last time I was there, they gave me this killer gap wedge. Look at that sweet spot, Scott. It is worn out. That is right in the sweet spot right there. So I went and got new clubs today, new irons. But more importantly, I got this bad boy. I got me a new putter. This is my old putter. It's on order. Yes, that's my putter cover. PXG Mustang putter. Now I'm going to the Allen putter. They talked me into it because I was draining some putts today. Bob, the guy who helped me out, he helped me with my irons. He got them teed up perfectly. But then we went to the putting green. I was draining them putts because that's the most important part of golf.
PXG fittings are fun. Schedule your fitting today. As you can hear from AJ, for a limited time, you could save up to 20% on your entire order. Head over to pxg.com/foul. That's pxg.com/foul to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/FOUL. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
We are back. So I want to get into Kyle Schwarber and the start that he's on. But first, real quick, Jim, you brought up a point earlier. You hope that this doesn't stop the Phillies from running Edmundo Sosa out there in left field.
Yeah.
The Phillies, I think they face a couple lefties over the next week and a half.
Unless he stops hitting.
Well, that Rob was kind of asked that last night. He says, as long as he keeps hitting, I would feel comfortable putting him out there. Yeah. So do we see him out there? Should he be out there the next time the Phillies face a left-handed pitcher as a starter? I think maybe it happens this weekend in St. Louis, or do you have to play Kepler out there? I mean, how does that balancing act work with, you said Kepler and Marsh can play every day against lefties, so what do you do?
You go with the guy who gives you the best chance to win the ball game. If you like the matchup, you go with and you like, if Sosa's hitting, you give him a shot. Going to St. Louis, his old team, I'm sure he'd be quite motivated. If you think it's a good matchup and you think he can help you win a game, then I'm going with him. I'm not backing off because he was part of a mistake in the outfield. I think, like I said, I think it can be a learning experience. I mean, showed his athleticism, climbing the wall. I mean, that play brought me out of my chair last night. So did the one that dropped in.
Yeah, they both did. It was back-to-back innings, right? Almost. I would think that just the way Rob Thompson works, I think that he's probably going to give him another shot so that he feels confident that Topper believes in him. And I think that's one of the reasons why Sosa's had so much success, is because Topper believes in him and he believes in himself as a player. Yeah. And I'd like to see him go out there one more time. Now, if Kepler over the next 3 or 4 games goes nuts, shoot, you might see him in center field. I think a lot of it depends on whether Marsh is swinging the bat well, whether Kepler's swinging the bat well, who's hot, and maybe play second base instead if Stott's not swinging the bat well, because Stott didn't have great at bats yesterday against a left-hander. So you may see him play second base. Again, it's about whether or not he's, as Jim said, gives the team the best chance to win the game. And a lot of it also depends on whether they're playing well, just as a team. Maybe they have to mix it up. Maybe they don't, whatever the case may be. So I think it's a fluid situation, but just knowing Topper, I think he'll get another shot in the outfield, and I hope he does, because he can be a contributor. We have to remember, everybody gets excited about Edmundo Sosa, and I love the guy. He is one of my favorite players on this team without question. But here's the deal. When a guy comes out of spring training, most of the guys like Edmundo Sosa, they carry a lot of the at-bats. They are most ready. They are the most ready players on the team because they've gotten at-bats, they've gotten in rhythm. There's a whole slew of things that are going on as far as getting themselves ready and seeing pitches and all that stuff. And so I'm not surprised that he's been hot coming out of the chute, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be hot all season long. And I do believe that he's much better in the role of part-time player than he is as a full-time player. Yes, super utility. Yes, a great player. Yes, a great teammate. All those things are true. But the reality of it is that he's probably the best player at 350 at-bats a year rather than 700 at-bats a year.
And multiple positions.
Correct.
Yes, agree with that. Gentlemen, it is time for Money Moves. Citizens Money Moves are brought to you by Citizens. From making a plan to reaching your goals, Citizens has the personalized advice and tools to help you make sense of your money. Citizens, official bank of the Phillies. We're talking money, and nobody right now in that Phillies lineup is more money than Kyle Schwarber, guys. He's got to be the Citizens Money Move today. He had single, triple, home run. That home run that he hit in the I gotta think what inning that was. Sixth, seventh inning.
Was it the fifth?
It was the fifth. There you go. It was the fifth inning. 466 feet. It's 11th longest home run tracked in his career. Left his bat at 116.9 miles an hour.
116.7.
There we go. Thank you, Ruben.
116.7. Ball by a left-hander ever in the history of Chris Sale's.
Just crushed it, yeah. And then he's off to a tremendous start. What do we, what's impressed you guys about Kyle Schwarber over these first 10 games?
Everything. I mean, how quick his bat is what impresses me. How quick his bat is without coming out of his swing, if you know what I mean. His swing is always under control. He's always got really good balance, and yet he generates so much velocity with that bat head. That's really and he's so short to the ball. That's what impresses me most about Kyle Schwarber's right now in his swing.
What impressed me yesterday was the fact that he hit a base hit when he was beaten on the pitch and stayed on it long enough and flipped a outside slider and hooked it to right field for a knock. Mm-hmm. Then he gets a changeup that's down and in. It was sort of a mistake, but got up enough so that he can get some barrel on it, and he stays inside it, doesn't hook it, stays inside it and drives it to right center field. Probably would have been out in about 9 or 10 ballparks. It was like the deepest part of the ballpark there at Truist. Smoked that ball for the triple. The fact that Harris the second could not make the play, will tell you, because he can cover some ground, will tell you that he smoked that ball. Mm-hmm. And then, Sale tries to sneak a piece of cheese past him, and you can't sneak a piece of cheese past a rat, my friend. And he absolutely ratted that ball into right center field. He smoked it. And, it was like a cannon. It was like cannon fodder. Bang! He hit all 4 seams of that baseball and went a long, long way. One of the hardest hit balls I think I've ever seen live. Maybe Matt Beach gave up a line drive to who was it? To Andrew Jones in the vet. That was
the upper deck shot.
That might have been the furthest ball or hardest ball hit, but this is definitely a close second.
That's the second time we've talked about that home run in a few weeks.
It was majestic. But that said, it's unfortunate that that effort went by the wayside.
Right. Yeah. He that ball was hit so far and so long it almost went into the chop house, the people dining in the chop house in right center field. And you say 466 feet, but watching that from the press box, that is such a far way away from home plate where he hit that ball. It really just, kind of reminds me of, it definitely reminded me of the second deck shot he hit against Yu Darvish in game 1 of the 2022 NLCS. That was the second deck. I remember talking to Padres where he's like, I've never seen a ball hit up there during batting practice before. And it also reminds me, a shot that's that deep into the ballpark, of course, reminds me of Matt Stairs' home run against the Dodgers in the 2008 NLCS.
Those were like more majestic and higher. They had a higher launch angle. This one was an absolute rocket. When it hit the wall of the chop house, it hit it with some force. It may have chipped some of the brick out there.
Kyle Schwarber has 5 home runs in his first 10 games. It's tied for the 4th most in the team's first 10 games to start a season. Mike Schmidt, I did not know this. Mike Schmidt hit 9 in his first 10 games in 1976. Chase Utley had 6 in his first 10 games in 2010. And the old standby Dolph Camilli had 6 to start the 1935 season. So Schwarber's on a ridiculous start. So, guys, I'm watching Schwarber play last night. Nah, I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm watching Schwarber play last night. And I'm watching this start. And I'm going, maybe they should start talking about that contract extension. Does that thought pop into your mind right now, guys, at all, or am I just falling in love with a really great 10-game start to the season?
It pops in my head all the time.
Okay,
because if you take a 2-year deal, I'd be all over that like a duck on a June bug. Maybe even a 3-year deal, but I just don't know if I don't know where to go with it. He's probably going to want more than that because, I think that bat speed will hold up till he's 40. Mm-hmm. I'm just worried about the age of the nucleus. But again, I think his bat speed will hold up. He might be the exception. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to see this thing. I want to see how the season plays out because I just think the stakes are so high in this season, this 2025 season. They got to win now. They're poised to win. And if you don't win and things don't go well, you may have to consider changing the mix. Right. And you may have to say goodbye to some people you really like. And you might want to keep your flexibility open just in case you have to change the mix. And I'm referring to your guys that are going to be free agents. I'm referring to the guys that are 1 year away from free agency. So as much as I would, if he would do even a 3-year deal, I probably would jump on it right now. But I'm also open to letting it ride. I apologize for my wishy-washy answer. That's why I couldn't be a GM.
Well, first and foremost, if you're in that seat, and I have been in that seat, you don't want to sign him right now when he's hot. You want to wait for him to go to a slow streak and then have the a power discussion about it if you wanted to do that. I think that they're going to be prudent about it and they're going to hold off. I love the guy. I love what he brings to the table. I love everything about him. There's nothing not to love about Kyle Schwarber. He fits so perfectly on this ball club for a lot of different reasons. But they've got a lot of decisions to make over the next, several months. One of them is, can this team win and can they be a world champion? And I think that's the most important thing. I think you sort of have to ride it out, let it all happen. Yes. Do you think about signing the guy? Yes, you do. But they did the same thing with JT Realmuto. They let him ride, and they signed him. And so, I mean, maybe it gets to the point where we have to wait to see what the market does and go from there.
Couple quick things here before we wrap.
What about you,
up.
Todd? You sort of dodged that one.
I did. I just asked the question.
Yeah. What do you got?
Yeah, I feel like you need to wait a little bit, but I'm hoping, I guess I'm guessing that they're still having some of these conversations. Maybe just let's check back in every once in a while. But when you see him hit like this, and Jim, you make a great point. I was just looking this up. Bat speed, you can look, you can take a look at bat speed
measure it
nowadays. Yeah, now you can measure it. Last year he was 3rd in baseball in bat speed, 77.5 miles an hour. His bat speed this season. Hits 76.3. So he's top 10 in baseball in bat speed. And so, yeah, you don't see a guy who you necessarily worry about is stereotypically the big hulking designated hitter. You sign him to a 4-year deal and then he just fades away. I look at him and I had this thought pop into my head last night on the lift on the way home back to the hotel is, why can't he be David Ortiz in a sense? Why can't he just be a designated hitter that just crushes baseballs until his late 30s? So I feel like there's less risk with Kyle Schwarber than, again, your stereotypical designated hitter. Nelson Cruz for years.
It's a great comp. I mean, the David Ortiz comp is a great comp because he was also a terrific leader. And I think that's also what Kyle Schwarber is as well. He really is. I mean, Harper leads because he's the great player and he's, the most complete player. But Kyle Schwarber is sort of the leader in the clubhouse in a lot of different ways. And he sort of sets the tone in that clubhouse in a lot of ways. And so I see that great comp. So that's why you're on this damn podcast. That's why you made this podcast. But it really is it's a great comp because I watched David Ortiz, particularly in his last season, and what he went through and what he meant to that organization. And I think Kyle Schwarber is the same way. They just have to win a World Series with him, and then it'll be the perfect comp.
Right.
I look at this nucleus and guys approaching free agency, either there at the end of this year or there at the end of 26. And I just get a little afraid because I've seen Phillies teams get old in the past, right before our eyes, and I've seen what happens. And then the digout is really tough. So it's a riddle and a conundrum and a mystery and all that stuff. What was that line in the movie?
A riddle wrapped in an enigma. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Not easy.
It is a tough one, guys. A couple quick things I just wanted to mention, more like newsy note keeping things. Ranger Suarez is going to begin a rehab assignment on Thursday with Class A Clearwater. He's going to start throwing 3 innings. So you could go 3, then you go 4, then you go 5, then maybe he comes back after 3 rehab starts. I don't know, but that's the plan for him. Rob Thompson, before the game yesterday, was asked about Jordan Romano, who we talked a lot about on our last episode. He says he thinks he's healthy. And I said, do you believe him when he tells you that he's healthy? He says, I believe him when he tells me that he is healthy, that he does not have an elbow issue or a back issue or a shoulder issue. He says maybe the fact that he pitched 3 out of 4 days affected him on Sunday. He says, I don't know that for sure, but that is kind of what he is hoping at some point. Sounds like he's going to pitch in some lower leverage situations the next time he comes out. That would elevate Jose Ruiz and Joe Ross. Not ideal, but that's kind of where we are. Andrew Painter is going to throw 2 innings, 35 pitches on Friday for Clearwater. So if you're in Clearwater, go to the ballpark on Thursday and Friday. You get to see Ranger Suarez pitch and then Andrew Painter pitch for a few innings. So wanted to mention those 2 things. We'll be back on Friday after this series, and then we'll talk about the Cardinal series. But the Philly show is brought to you by Citizens. Make sense of your money with Citizens, official bank of the Phillies. Guys, talk to you later.
Smell you later, boys.
Smell you guys.